Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Genius Level Podcast. I'm the program manager of the Boy Genius program and the Genius Initiative, Maurice Womack. And today I have two very special guests, two young brothers who I know outside of this, who I admire a lot for the work that they do. So we have Moses Hayelom and Iddrisu Seidu. So welcome them to the podcast. How you doing?
Good, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us,
Good.
man.
Yeah, thanks, man. I always think of you two as like community superheroes.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
Young Avengers, you know what I mean? And so, but to that, tell me a little bit about each of you, your origin story. You know, every good superhero has an origin story, kind of what brought them to this place in their life, and that informs what they do and why they do it. So tell me your origin story.
I want to hear from you first.
Oh man, I mean, from me and my family, we came to America in '93, and we started in the DMV area. And so my upbringing was between the DC area and Columbus. So we go back and forth. We have family out here, and then our family coming from Tigray, Ethiopia, we had just a different level of struggle to find our way, to learn the language, to understand the dynamics, the culture, but also have family that, similar to like almost any, immigrant story where you got like one studio apartment and it's like 8 deep. My uncle, aunt, their sons, me and my sister, my mom and dad just trying to figure things out. And then over time, being able to go to places where I could start to learn from, teachers and coaches and mentors and elders and folks that would pour into me, that would kind of help me chart a path where I could start to learn passion for sports. Specifically, basketball was my thing. And then that kind of created a upward spiral into taking the same level of approach into just other areas of interest that I felt like could help me become the best person I could be. And then over time, my mother had started her business. She had a hair salon. And then we ended up taking that hair salon business, and she found a building that she converted from an old steakhouse into a plaza. And so now we have our restaurant in that plaza. We have a coffee shop. We have her hair salon. And over time, we started to think about how much more development and impact could we create through business, through community. And that's what led us to open up and purchase what was formerly the Neighborhood House and Sawyer Rec Center, a community center in Bronzeville that we're calling the Opportunity Zone. So that's like a snapshot, I would say.
Okay, cool, awesome. And we'll dive deeper into that as well.
Yeah. No, so for me, it's like very similar, the kind of starting story, origin point. We have the international Young Avengers here, I guess. But
Right.
for me, my family immigrated over from Ghana, and my dad, he came to this country for just opportunities, right? So I think he came here on a track scholarship, actually, and that's how he ended up in Ohio, of all places, which is anytime. So from Cleveland originally, but now a Columbus native. Anytime it would snow really heavily, I would always ask him, like, this was the place you had to pick of all the places we could have gone.
Why here, right?
Yeah, why here, right? But I'm glad because Cleveland, like, definitely is like my upbringing, right? Like being in that environment where you just have to grind and just, it gets gritty, right? And you work hard and you get through that, But yeah, very similar upbringing where for us, education was very important in our household, and making sure that we were always working hard, pursuing the things that we wanted to do. And that's the thing I love about my parents. They never said don't do something. It was always, yeah, do that. But if you're gonna do it, just like work hard, bust your butt at it, and be the best, and make sure that you know everything as much as possible, everything you can know in order to be the best and be as excellent as you can be. And so for me, and now it wasn't necessarily sports, because sports is more my younger siblings' lane and venue. For me, it was always school and academics, and specifically sciences, right? So knowing that I had that spark of STEM and that interest and curiosity in being a scientist, being an engineer, being Tony Stark, if you will, or Batman, that is what pushed me to pursuing engineering in my college studies, and led to all the different career fields that I've worked in, ultimately leading to where we are now with Makerspace Central, where I know we've talked about things of how we can all work together to make that more of a thing in the community of just these STEAM activations. And so, yeah, that's kind of the origin story for me. Just, I've always had that spark of curiosity and interest in science, but it was really cultivated by the family upbringing we had, which really spoke to the power and strength of education and community. So, yeah.
Awesome. And, to that, the whole community thing is one of the reasons why I paired you two on the podcast. But, I do some work with you all, And one of the things that I always noticed was how community minded both of you were. So tell me a little bit about Moses, the Opportunity Zone, and Iddrisu Makerspace Central. Now, with Opportunity Zone, I always it's funny. I always think about the end scene in Black Panther.
That's a fact. Yeah, that's a fact.
Right?
Yes.
When
That's a
they
fact.
come back to Oakland and,
Yep.
and they buy the building and they're
Yeah.
gonna turn it into a STEM center and everything else for the community.
That's right.
And so just even the name, now, do you call it the OZ or the Oz or
Ozone.
Well, yeah,
all
the
that,
Ozone.
yeah,
Okay,
all of that. You know,
yeah,
what
tell
I
us a
mean?
little bit about how that kind of came to mind for you to even buy that building and where your heart was when you made that decision.
Yeah, nah, it was a real, by the grace of God, honestly, because it was like a dream of mine to basically find a space in the inner city where we could, develop young people, adults and elders, and basically, create that intergenerational connection between the two. Because I was fortunate enough to have a lot of elders in my life that just poured a lot of love, game, wisdom, taught me life. And I realized there's a lot of like infinite, evergreen, universal principles that you can get from those elders and those people who've lived. They basically just want you to get to where they got in less time. And so that gives you a crazy advantage in life. And so to not have that is a huge disservice that basically raises up a new generation of people that are disconnected. And so my mindset was, two things. One was I had a substitute science teacher that in the 4th grade who decided to teach us financial literacy instead of science. He didn't know nothing about science, actually. Even though I love science, don't get me wrong, but he was just like, you guys need to learn about money. And so he came into class and was like, what you guys want to learn about, science or money? We're like, money. And so he already had a curriculum written, and he taught us from savings to budgeting to 401ks to assets to liabilities to stocks, everything. And one day out the blue, he asked me, he's like, what's your favorite company? And I said, Nike. And he was like, did you know you can own Nike? And I was like, nah, how do you do that? And so he's like, if you want to know, skip recess. Anybody that wants to know, come in to the library and I'll teach you. And so that was the next period. So our 4th period was, recess. 3rd period was that, financial literacy disguised as science class. And so I went to the library. A few of our other classmates came through, and then we created a stock market team. And that's when we learned about wealth, and how that works. And we went through the process of actually making a team, and then we won the stock market game. And this is a virtual game, and you play against high schoolers and colleges, and you play against adults. It's crazy. And so by us winning it blew my mind, because we learned the process of P ratios and ticker symbols and all these different things that develop wealth over time. And then when we won, the Federal Reserve of Richmond, Virginia found out about us, and they threw us a banquet. Okay. Then the CEO of a company that we purchased like a month before the game ended, he found out about us because their stock was the reason why we ended up winning. Okay. So then we went to Louisville, Kentucky. He threw us a banquet. We met his board. He said, if any of us want to go to the University of Louisville, we get the grades, he'll pay for a full ride. Oh, wow. So think about that profound impact that has. And when you think about it, you think like, man, that's impossible to teach those type of concepts to kids, but I lived it. So I know that it ain't. And at the same time, I went and I was able to play college basketball. So it's fast forward years later, and I made it on my Division I basketball team, no scouts, no nothing. And I became exposed to the level of advancement in facility and resources and career pathways and a variety of things. And I used to think to myself, like, man, what if we had this growing up? Where would we be? How could we, achieve our highest human potential? And we had sparks of those things happening in Columbus, like the hoop, which I always talk about.
Yeah, I remember the hoop.
But it had went away. So my mindset was like, if there is a way to connect the best of what we can produce in our communities, like from music, art, to STEM, to sports, and put those intergenerational connections together in one place and kind of create an ecosystem and a hub, then we will get that last scene in Black Panther. You know what I'm saying? We will get that. And so that became crystallized to me. The property became available. I found it in the middle of the night, and it took about 9 months for us to secure the property. It was a big fight, big struggle. It was crazy. And by the time we were able to close, that was July 2024. It took 300 yards worth of dumpsters to clean the place out. But like little by little by little, more and more of the right people have been coming in our way. Like I said, God puts the right people in front of you. And we've been able to, develop really cool programs that are either happening now or coming, just like how we doing together,
Yeah, no, I love it, man. I think, when you kind of come out of these communities, that's always like the dream. You always see football players giving back. They're having football camps and things. And for you to have that notion like, hey, I want to build a center in the center of the community and allow it to be a resource for people to kind of reach their potential, man, I think it's just, that's wonderful. So I applaud you on that, man.
It's not me. It's all God, my mom. A lot of people that poured into us that helped us get this far. And then the fact that it was going to be demolished and it got saved from being demolished. The community fought it to keep it alive. It's it's not just me, bro. Like, so many more people that came before me and currently that are making it what it can be. So thank God for that.
Awesome.
Yeah, Iddrisu, man. Good
shit.
Iddrisu,
tell us about Makerspace Central.
Yeah. So it's funny because we have this is my first time hearing the origin story and all this, and there's a lot of parallels, and it's exciting. It's the same things that forge us into who we are, right? The same people that pour into us, that have love for us, that sort of thing. But for MSC, so Makerspace Central is an idea that has been in my head in some way, shape, or form since 2014. And that year is distinct in my head because one of our founding board members of Makerspace Central, he and I, we were up in Cleveland. We're thinking about we were obsessed with the hackerspace model, what it meant, right? Just seeing how folks in Silicon Valley were just getting together and just putting all their resources and tools and sharing knowledge and experience with one another to build cool gadgets and devices. And we were just like, how do we do this in Cleveland, right? But also we were fresh out of college and we don't have the experiences to know how do I put all these puzzle pieces together, right? And so that first iteration was called Hackerarium. And so, we had a whole LLC for it and everything. And we tried it a few different times.
Aquarium, but Hackerarium?
Yeah, Hackerarium. So aquarium, it's I've become better at branding and marketing over the years. So
that was a good first shot.
Yeah, hey, you miss 100% of the shots you don't test, right? And so, that was kind of like a line in the sand for me. But that combined with the fact that in my undergrad years, we had our senior design capstone project was centered around this competition that Parker Hannifin, you guys know their motor company, they do all different kinds of things. They had a competition called Chainless Challenge. And Chainless Challenge is a competition where you have to design, build, and construct a bicycle from scratch that does not use mechanical gear like a drivetrain, right? So no chains. You got to use motors and pumps that they can supply you, right? And so for us, for our senior year, for undergrad, we're like, nah, we're going to make our own motors and pumps. So we built our own hydraulic motors and hydraulic pumps from scratch, designed it, had it sent out to machine shops, all this kind of stuff. And it was a team of 7 of us, and three of us were on the motor team, 4 of us were on the pump team. And we both had an elliptical cam design. I can geek out about this all day. I'll show you guys the schematics of it and everything. But what was cool about it was that there were 7 of us working together on this team. And we actually flew out to California to compete against 19 other schools the country. Yeah. Well, ours was one of 4 or 5 bikes that was still standing at the end. Wow. And we were the only one who made a custom motor, custom pump. Everyone else used the pre-manufactured pumps. And so we wear that as a badge of honor, right? The whole thing.
That's a fact.
But what was cool about that was that it was 7 of us. We were out of our depth in a lot of areas, right? But we figured it out. We asked questions. We talked with real experts in the industry. And we were a small company. And that's what was so cool about that we just had to figure it out, right? We all wore different hats. I remember doing a lot of CAD design. I remember doing a lot of structural analysis, fluid analysis, control modeling simulation for all how the bike is going to function, the motor is going to function. And it was cool. And that was my first time thinking yo, I think I can work in an environment like this, right? To be in this startup type of environment where I have to figure things out. And that experience combined with the idea for Hackerarium plus all the STEM outreach that I've done through my career as an engineer in the workforce over the years, all that kind of coalesced and culminated in this idea of Makerspace Central, where we create the same kind of design challenge experience and activities for kids to become those experts, right? And I can tell you what the program we do right now, all the kids, they create varying levels of gadgets and devices. Some have nailed it. They have a good mastery of the foundational concepts and are able to build really beautiful, intricate, complex designs. Some kids, it's their first time making a prototype and it's out of cardboard and duct tape. But guess what? It's their first prototype and it's beautiful, right? Now they're on this pathway to becoming someone who who knows how to ask questions, right? To become a critical thinker, right? And that's ultimately what it's about, right? That Makerspace Central is producing folks who aren't just necessarily like going to be engineers and scientists, but are folks who can think critically. And that's what I love about this community, this conversation about community, because in community, we all come together and we're asking each other questions to say, hey, I don't know how to do this thing, but I think you do. Can you help me out with this? Or do you know someone who can help me out and answer this particular question? Because I think together, that's when we become stronger, right? Like Makerspace Central can't do everything STEM related, but we can work with people who are experts in different areas and combine forces to create really cool programming that really addresses needs that need to be met in the community or addressed in the community. So
For sure. No, that's lovely, man. I did a lot in the STEM space too. That's kind of how we met. And so when I saw you, I don't know how long you've been in Columbus, but you were making the rounds. You were at the after school, I think after school network conference. I think that's where we first met in person. Yep.
Yeah.
And so again, both of you, seeing you both kind of on the ground, kind of doing the work. So that's something that leads me to my next kind of conversation. That's something with the Genius Initiative we're trying to crack, right? How do you get men specifically to, because both of you are successful in other areas. So Flavor 91, successful restaurateur, real estate, mogul. I'm gonna name it right
from your list of guys ears, you know,
right. Engineer. I think are you chief engineer?
Yeah, chief engineer right now.
Aerospace engineer. Doing your thing in the STEM world, and that could have been it. You could have been like, "Yo, I'm doing well." You know, you got the family. You know, well, bachelor, doing well. But you could have been like, "Hey, that's it. I'm good. You know, I'm gonna just focus on this and continue to build in those areas." So, what was the why that got you to say, like, there must be something more that I could be doing to pour into the community in a way? Because that's, like I said, that's the code we're trying to crack at Genius. Like, how do we get more men into the community? And so tell them a little bit about that motivation and kind of what motivates and pushes you to want to do more than really is required of you in the community and for others.
True. For me, it's definitely faith, because you know, by the grace of God, you know, that's the reason why I'm here, for real. Family, you know, knowing what my parents went through, my uncles, aunts, extended family had to do to get here, to establish themselves, to sacrifice, to try to give us the best they could with what they had while they were trying to figure things out too, and did the best they could. And then, of course, you know, teachers and coaches and people that, you know, when my parents wasn't around, could, you know, put their arm around me, or just, you know, give me a good word, or, you know, show me the right way to do things, pour into me and my friend group. And then people from different churches and whatnot that would do the same thing. And then lastly, it was like just reaching my highest human potential. That's what always, you know, drives me in terms of, like, all of that took place in order for me to get here. So it's only right for me to do the same that they did for me, because that is what provides, like, purpose, meaning, and gives them worth and dignity to show that, you know, that investment that they put in me, there was a return on it. It was worth it, because so many of us didn't make it. And so I see the cycles. I see how things can progress, you know, in one way or another. So I want to be the catalyst that helps it go in the right direction. And as it relates to cracking that, you know, code, it comes down to just, you know, you see what it looks like when those young people are around you, and they're excelling, they're getting better, like, things are making sense. They're actually turning a vision and making it a tangible product, or they're physically getting better. And so that like restores your own motivation to continue to do the same. And they're going to do the same too when they grow up. They're going to do the same exact thing. So to me, it's like just letting friends and family know. That's what I do. Anytime, like, I know other brothers or other, you know, men that are, like, you know, really cool and solid, and they got the same mentality. I'm like, yo, do you know about the Boy Genius program? Do you know about, you know, the fact that you can go in here and actually read to these young people and, you know, get involved? And do you know about these other programs that's going on that's really producing impact and outcomes? You know, from young people to adults to elders. Like, there's things for every population, and there's people that I know who are doing it because I'm doing it too. So it's like, it only makes sense to spread that word of mouth as well, and do things like this as well too. Go ahead.
Yeah. For me, I think it's always culminated around the fact that critical thinking is power, right? Having the ability to, if someone asks you a question and you just say, oh, I don't know, like there's not much there, right? But if someone asks you a question, you say, hold on, let me think about it. And you may not even have to answer immediately, but you really ponder and break this problem down, right? I think that is ultimately why we do the work we do with MSC, right? And why I wanted to start down this path of doing outreach, because you're 100% right. You kind of reach the peak of human potential, meaning, and that doesn't mean like I'm like the world's best engineer or anything like that, right? But, or that you're the world's best basketball player. But what it means is you're doing it for a while, and then your eyes start opening up of like, look at the different ways people can interact with this, intersect with this. And then you look at the people who are doing that job or that career field, or, are in that career field, sorry. And you realize, wait, there's not enough diversity here to really speak to the issues of everything in society, right? If you design, I think a great example of that is just like facial recognition technology is a crazy technology, right? That it struggles with darker complexion folks, right? And I would wager that the folks who are in those rooms designing these systems are not necessarily comprised of the people that those communities that the technology are affecting are comprised of, right? So making sure that we have folks who can sit down and say, hey, have we considered this? These are other ways for us to use this technology or for us to build this technology is really important. So for me, there's a lot of also pain that kind of has started this journey for me of seeing what those issues are that folks in our community, and not just in the Black community or not just in the male community, but just communities at large face. But then also there's a lot of hope and optimism too of like, hey, I see a little kid who is really good at tinkering and building. I can say that kid needs more programming and outlets to make that happen, right? There's been a huge destruction of third spaces and third places over the last several decades, right? Like I know we're around the same age, so for us, going to the malls was still kind of a thing, right? Like maybe Hot Topic was the only place to go to in the mall or so, whatever it is,
Foot
right?
Locker.
Yeah, Foot Locker. Yeah.
But I used to have a spot called GameWorks. It was like a huge arcade.
Yeah, I remember that.
But even arcades are kind of going away. You know what I mean? And it's like they're only kind of coming back because like they're retro now, and it's really kind of geared towards adults.
Right.
But making sure we built these outlets and spaces for kids to also be creative and to learn while they're doing that and becoming more resilient, becoming critical thinkers through all that, I think it's just so important. And that's really the ultimate why as to why we do this kind of work.
Like you were saying about critical thinking being a power, like being a designer, being the producer, being the decision maker, being the leader, being the owner.
Yes.
Those things are what shifts how innovation is produced and approached. It starts to look like the people are serving, and it goes beyond that because it's actually universal. It goes beyond just your own community. It goes even further. That's how you grow something to a degree where it serves much more than you thought could serve. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk around the future of work and kind of like what's going to be valued, given AI and robotics. And for me, it's always comes back to if you're a problem solver, then you'll be valued wherever you go. Agnostic of any of the tools that you'll use to solve those problems, right? So, but if you can think critically and solve problems, communicate, collaborate with others in teams, then, those things will be valued, no matter what the technology landscape looks like. So definitely, like I said, admire both of you and the work that you're doing. For me, I feel like it's almost sometimes a cliche. Like when people are growing up, they're like, hey, when I grow up, I'm going to give back, and everybody gives back in their own kind of way. And so it's almost kind of ingrained in us to like, once you've kind of made it a little bit, quote unquote, that it's a duty to give back, which is something that I think we need to do a better job of communicating to people, and especially men, that, really as a man or as a citizen, it's your duty to as you've kind of made it. I think Toni Morrison says that my wife has it in her email signature that once you're free, it's your duty to free others, right? In that way. And so, and that was kind of something, once I kind of quote unquote made it as a young engineer, was like, life has to be more than just this.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
accumulating things for myself.
Mm-hmm.
How do I pour back into others? And so that's kind of what led me down that path. So
That's right.
if we could capture that, put it in a bottle, then maybe we'll be able
Right.
get out there.
Liberation work. That's
Liberation. I like it.
Liberation
Yeah,
work. That's right.
for sure.
That's right.
And I was gonna add to what you were saying earlier too, of like that, the realization when you see the kids' faces, like that, the aha moments, right? That's why you do this, right?
Yeah,
Because when you see a kid get a concept, whether it's STEM related or stock market related, that's so cool that you guys got to do that, by the way. Or you're reading them a book and like they're following along and you can test their comprehension and they know the plot points. Like it's very satisfying to know that. Okay,
that's the reward, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, and it's hard to kind of conceive that if you haven't done it or if you haven't been out there in the community, like with the reading we're doing, when we're reading these books and we leave the crowns with the kids and it's just like they're coming up, fist bumping you.
Yes.
It's definitely a reward that if you haven't done that work, you don't know kind of exists. But it's something that is untouchable. You know what I mean? So
it's a fact. And they might not see that, growing up, but they'll remember it for sure. Especially if they know, like, I'm talking to a chief engineer here. He look like me. I'm talking to a mechanical engineer right here. He looks like me. He knows how to build something from scratch that I can't even imagine that could be built in the first place.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that DIY mentality, it just ends up turning into them thinking like, well, I can do things myself beyond this here. I can, whatever I see in front of me, I can figure it out myself. I can do it myself. And little by little, they end up, embarking on being able to like lift themselves up and empower themselves beyond that. And then seeing people like yourself doing this work on top of it, it sticks with them, So, yeah.
So, all of us are men. What in the work that we're doing at Genius is about activating men and understanding manhood in a certain light. Who was or is the most influential man in your life? Just pick one person and tell us a little bit why you chose that person. And you take some time to think about it.
Definitely
if you need to
think about it. You said you got 2 hours. Shoot.
I'll start to give you some time.
Please go ahead.
So I think right off the bat, my father, like I said, he came to this country, like worked really hard to get our family to a point where we had abundance and we were able to do things with that, right? Able to go to college with that. We were able to get a home here in this country and able to support family back home, right? Like that's a big thing too,
That's
right? So I'm always grateful to God and to him for that. And not just for the providing aspect, but also my dad he's always he's always pushing us to excel and be the best we can, right? But at the same time having fun with it, right? That's always been a cornerstone of everything he said to me, like, oh, be the best at this. However, make sure you're having fun with it, because if you're not having fun with it, you probably can't be the best, or you can't do your best at it, right? Up to your capacity, right? Because everyone, it's our belief that everyone is given what they can handle, right? Like you're not giving more than what you can bear, right? And also I just really admire his tenacity and his ability to learn so many different things. Like I think I was about 10 or so, and I was digging through my dad's like office, looking through, rummaging through his files and stuff. Like that's what you do when you're 10, right? You're like, oh, let me get in this here. What do you got? What do you got in here, right? And I saw he had like you know how you see businesses and companies and ice cream trucks that have like the laminated letters on the side of their truck. And so I roll it out and it says like NASCO, like ice cream. And I was like, wait, what? And so that prompted me to ask my dad, like, wait, like, what is this? He's like, oh yeah, I used to have an ice cream truck business back in the day. And I was like, wait, what?
That's crazy.
He had an ice cream truck business. He used to work at like a barrel company, had an accounting software company, had real estate. He was doing like 5-6 things, all these different careers before I even knew him, right? Wow. So like I know my dad as this guy from like the day I was born, but then before that, like he has his whole life.
That's a fact.
Of like stories I'll never know, right? But those all developed and cultivated him into the person he is today, and the father that I had as a kid growing up. And that's why I admire him so much, right? Because he did all these different things, and all the lessons he learned, he poured into my siblings and I. And so for that, I'm always grateful. And, They're always big about reading and education.
Yeah.
They always, my parents always said, "Oh, let books be your friends." That was so yeah.
Wow, that's dope. That's amazing. That's incredible. That's crazy.
Yeah.
He had a whole ice cream truck
The
business.
ice cream truck.
Just in the cut,
Man, just like
never
real
know
quick.
he's gonna whip out the truck, That's crazy.
Yeah.
And you said he had an accounting software business too?
Accounting software business. Yeah, built his own software. Like what
did your dad do?
So now he's like a retired, but he dabbles in like network engineering and whatnot. But like he did like built his whole accounting software from scratch. I forget the name of the code that he used, but like when we talked about it recently, he was like, "Oh yeah, I want to get it updated to like C# or C+." So something before, you know what I mean? So way back in the day, he was doing this stuff. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. I'm trying to buy myself time.
Yeah,
You know what I was gonna say though? Nah, you should really like interview your dad. Like,
yeah,
you know
honestly,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't gotta be,
you
out in the open, but like just for your own like family records, like your own, like knowing who your pops was growing up, all of that. That's important. You know, I always think about that too. But I don't have just one. I'm gonna keep it real with you. I really don't. I really don't. It's like
the question was for one. No.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like,
no, go ahead.
I ain't got time for this whole story. Okay. Nah, man, it was too many. But one of the people I was thinking about on my way here was he wasn't just a science teacher. He was a track coach. He did drama club, mock trial. He taught bio. He taught chemistry. He taught algebra 1 and 2, geometry, trig, calculus.
Wow.
And he knew how to tell the weather. That's the one thing that used to blow my mind. I was like, how you know how to do that? He told us how. I was like, I still don't know what you just said. Like, it's crazy. But he's a genius, man. His name was Mr. Platt. But a lot of different teachers that I grew up with were like, they just were like Renaissance people. Like they just did a million things like very well. And you didn't even know they could do it until like a student happened to ask like, "Hey, do you think I could take an AP class with calculus?" Like one of my classmates randomly asked that question one day. And he was like, "Yeah, I know how to teach calculus." I was like, "What? How do you know how to do that?" And so he used to like be like a hard-nosed type of person when it comes to like standards and excellence and like just challenging people to make sure they got, the best out of themselves done and taken care of, as well as the other male teachers that I grew up around. And one of the main things that I remember doing was we had a bio, like everybody had this big bio project they had to do, and mine was building a pond from scratch. Okay. I still believe to this day it was just like a random errand he wanted me to do because it was in his backyard. Yeah. I'm like, bro, this is just for the house, you know? But nah, I really had to dig 6 feet deep, put in a makeshift pond, put all the rocks around it, learn the irrigation system, put the fish in it. It was crazy. And I realized like later on over time that he was just a person that, from the outside looking in, you would think he's just a hard-nosed person, but he really was trying to get you to be the best that you could possibly be. I had another teacher, she wouldn't let you leave the school building if you had makeup homework. No. Like she locked the doors. And and it was a checkmate. Like, what are you going to say to your parents? Like, you didn't do your homework. You better stay in there, and now you're in trouble both ways. So people that really went above and beyond to make sure that we grew up with like those like principles when it came to like, if you start something, you finish it. When you take on a project, you make sure that you know how to ask for help, that you always have your resources around you, that you're going to learn how to do it yourself. And you can, you can really do whatever it is that you put your mind to. Whatever it is, you can. And you got people around you that's going to help you make sure it gets done. But yeah, man, I can't just choose one. There's so many different like solid male people that was in like not only my life but in my friend group life for sure.
No, that's good, man. I think there's a lot of conversation around what it takes to kind of raise healthy kids. I think is boils down to surrounding them with loving adults, right? Caring adults in whatever capacity they can care and love and be in your life. And I think if you do that and remove as much, chaos and trauma from their lives, they'll turn out okay. You know what I mean? And then kind of doing what you're doing, exposing them to things that maybe because of their circumstance they wouldn't otherwise get exposed to. So again, kudos to you both. I I know both of you were athletes. So did you play in high school? You play a sport in high school?
Yeah, I played basketball.
I know now
ran
you do
track.
like ultimate frisbee.
Yeah, ultimate. Yeah, that's my. Actually, funny enough, you guys know MKBHD, Marcus Brownlee. I met him. I dapped him up at.
That's right.
Yeah,
I knew he played.
Yeah. I met him at a tournament in LA when I lived out in California out there. I should have gotten a picture because like it's so funny because I had people stop me all the time while I was out there. Like, hey man, you MKBHD? I'm like, no, that's not me. But that
was my thought when I met you. Like,
he does the reviews. I actually make it.
But yeah, no. In high school, I played basketball. I ran track, and I actually started swimming my senior year of high school.
Okay,
and that was really fun. I honestly wish that I had done swimming my entire 4 years of high school. But yeah, I actually did like theater, drama. Choir, that was all I was very much in the arts and science. So yeah.
So to the sports thing, elite basketball player. If you're on the D1 team, especially you walk on, you had to, have some skills. I'm sure, right?
Belief.
You still hoop?
Shoot, a little bit. My excuse was gonna be, using the gym that we have in the center. I've worked more now.
Yeah, I feel that. You can't make the time, right?
Right.
But what is it about sports, man? That because I talked about this with Mary Ginther too. Name drop real quick.
Got budgets.
Big
budgets.
With Mary Ginther, this idea of like sports and how it can shape men, specifically young boys. What do you think? What are the qualities of like sports that are beneficial to young boys? I mean, just kids in general. What are those qualities that you think make the difference?
It's a productive use of their energy. Yes. These kids got a lot of energy. They're going crazy. They're running around. They, trying to get a way to, that's the best way to channel it, basically, and use it in a productive setting so that they could actually gain coordination skills. All of this is going on in their brain.
Yeah.
Everything that they're picking up that you're teaching them how to do, it's going on in their brain and their subconscious is going into their motor skills. And these things are helping them connect dots, like understand how to coordinate, for example, with basketball or what have you. There are specific mechanical movements that you have to make that will produce a given result. From your shooting form to your dribbling to your running up and down with your cardio to what have you. And little by little, you get better and better. And it. You're consciously aware of how much better you're getting. And that reward system is getting fulfilled right then and there. And then being in a team setting, being around adults who are coaches who can pull you to the side, it gives you every aspect of like mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, how do you say, what is it? Like connection, I guess is the best word I could use. It connects all those things at one time. That's what sports does.
Yeah.
And then, like I mentioned, when you get into actually being able to develop a young player, then that takes it to an exponential level. Because now they're connecting not only how to channel their energy the right way, but how to actually use their motor skills productively to get the desired results that they want to win. But they're actually connecting the dots of becoming the best I can be. That's the other key thing that's happening.
Yeah.
And little by little, that physical catches up with the mind. And then eventually they think to themselves, well, if I want to make it to the highest level I can as an athlete, then I have to get my grades, which reverse engineers their incentive structure. They might not know how school and academics and whatnot actually translates to real life, but they see a ball player or they see an athlete that's successful. They got their stuff together. They're, living a good life. They're making money, whatever the case is. And then they start to think, well, if I get my grades, then I can make the team. And I have to attend class to be available to get my grades. I have to behave right in order to make the team. All of these things connect, and eventually they start to realize, well, if I want to be the best I could be on the court, I want to be the best I could be at chemistry. I want to be the best I could be at social studies. I want to be the best I could be at math. I want to be the best I could be when I go home after school. I want to be the best I could be for my brothers and sisters or for my community. It starts to naturally escalate at exponential levels. And so that's what I noticed happen with me, and I know it's possible for other young people too. So I think that's what it is for me.
Okay.
For sure.
Cool. Well, good answer.
For me, I would say to pull on one of the threads Moses brought up there, it is the faith in others, right? It is that community building aspect of a team, right? Like if I have my starting five, I got my forwards, my guards, my center. If I'm a guard, I need to trust that my center is going to be there, right? So what you're doing by practicing day in and day out with your teammates is you're building a rapport, right? You're not just on the court, but you're also hanging out at each other's homes. You're going out to eat, you're going to the arcade together, going to the mall, like whatever the equivalent of that is now for Gen Z, right? Like, I know you guys don't have malls, but by working together, by being together, you're building up this rapport and this trust, right? To know that I didn't even have to look at my guy over here. I'll just throw the ball this way and he'll be there, right? And that is true of life in general too, right? That will, if you have a spouse or partner or a family member that you know you can rely on, it's because you've built up that rapport and that trust. So I think team sports have a really strong correlation to just how you can trust and build a community with others in the real world as well.
That's real. That's well said. Yeah. And then, like you mentioned, that camaraderie, communication, the intangible skills that just naturally start to happen. And then, you know, what's so crazy on top of it is, you know, a lot of athletes, whether they make it further, you know, college or not, but they actually get these skills that introduce them to their flow state too. That's the first time I ever was, you know, aware of the flow state when I learned how to break a full court press. You know, that's when I realized I was like, oh, I'm playing at a different level. Like, you know, I'm playing 4D chess now. And I think that zone that they get into, it, you know, it crystallizes like, oh, I can, whatever is coming my way, anxiety or, you know, rapid, you know, what is it? What is it called? Not impulses, but when your environment, what's that thing called when it's your environment is
rapid, like stimulations, like
stimulation. There you go. All that you can actually control it. You know, it doesn't have to dictate your reaction.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
all of those things develop, like you mentioned, that faith, that camaraderie, that trust, that ability to like be able to take on whatever is in front of you, around you, and it naturally brings all those generations together, you know, to pour into you as well. So
you know, for me is the discipline piece, the teamwork, the practice, the consistency. It's funny, even now at my age, I'm older than you two, but still connect with dudes that I played football with in Pee Wee League, you know. And same thing, we think about very fondly of our former coaches. Some of them are not here anymore, but just kind of what they did to pour into us and just being on that battlefield together, you know what I mean? So it's funny, my wife tried to clown us, and whenever she sees like guys crying on the after they lose the Super Bowl or something, and like, well, she never played sports, but like, why are they crying? It's just a game, you know. It's like, you don't understand, man. Because I've cried before, you know, in championship game, you lose, and it's like, man, you did all this work, you know, and you fall short, you know, and it's an emotional thing, but it speaks to how, you know, that connection, like you said, Moses, to sports and to each other and to a common goal that, you know, left unachieved, how that can affect you, you know what I mean? So, but then, you know, like Giannis said, you know, you get back up and you try again.
That's
you saw that speech he did. It was like, man, that was perfect, man.
That's a fact.
Like, it doesn't mean that you're not great. It's just sometimes you don't win.
That's right.
So that's the other part of it. It teaches you how to lose and get back up and get back to work. You know, so
and fear too. It helps you deal with fear in a real way, because you can be afraid. Like, you can watch Mike Tyson or whoever. They'll tell you they were afraid going into the ring, but when they overcame that and just fought through it, and they saw the other side of it, they're like, I can deal with this. You know what I mean? I don't have to be crippled by that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And same thing with playing ball. Like, there were games where I was like, butterflies in my stomach. I ain't, you know, but I just got to play through it and see what happens on the other end. And if we lose, what did we learn from that? And if we win, we're like, yo, it's like, that has less of an impact on me now. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So many parallels to real life. You know what I mean? So, so real quick, before we move on from sports, LeBron or Michael?
Michael.
Oh.
I knew you would say Michael, man. You just gave off an MJ fan.
Of course. I mean, I love Bron. Don't get me wrong. I love Bron. Like, I'm just like, I can't believe how much he's done on and off the court.
Yeah.
So for him to keep playing still and dominating and going crazy.
Yes.
But yeah, Michael, you know, he came first. And not only that, he's undefeated in the, what's it called? In the finals.
Finals, yep.
You know what I mean? Not only that, it's just like to leave and come back and still do another three-peat. You know,
that's scary.
That's crazy. You know what I'm saying?
It is crazy, yeah.
Imagine, you know, back then what it was like, you know.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
the way those guys were playing, like under the hoop, man.
And that's like the blueprint. Like nothing wrong. Like nothing on his name. Like bad reputation. Like led the way. And Kobe, you know, that's his inspiration. LeBron, that's his inspiration.
Yeah,
so
true.
How can, you know, like I said, I love Bron. Don't get me wrong, but that's his inspiration. Like that's you know what I mean. And as a competitor, you're supposed to believe you're the best.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know,
exactly.
You know what I mean? That's what you're supposed to say. That's what you're supposed to believe. And plus, Bron, it looked like he ain't gonna stop till he's 50.
Yeah,
so
he's on another level.
Yeah, you know,
physically. Yeah,
he's gonna set that bar as high as he can before he's like, I'm good. And he's a billionaire. Like, think about how much love you got to have for a game. To be a billionaire, to keep playing the same way that you do, to not slack, to
work ethic.
Like that's different. Like you know what I mean? That's go in a different level. But Michael for sure.
I'm gonna have to LeBron. Like that's just because like I'm a Clevelander, you know, like Cleveland, but also like I don't know. It's cool because I remember when Bron was drafted to the Cavs. It was 2003, so I was like sixth grade. Yeah, sixth grade for me. So like I grew up watching real time, like my formative years, you know? Like for me, like I saw Michael towards the end when I started paying attention to basketball. So I think that's what it is for me. But I always love to shout out Kareem too, because like
dang,
he's a dude. He's the GOAT in my opinion. Like just skyhook.
And when you were living in LA, did that have an impact on?
Man, it was odd. Like when he came to the Lakers, but still a LeBron fan. Like regardless, like that's absolutely. Now I gotta ask you, LeBron or Kobe for you?
LeBron,
or LeBron, Kobe, or Jordan? Yeah, LeBron.
Man. And I grew, and I'm like I said, I'm older than y'all, so I actually seen Michael play.
What's wrong with you? No, I'm playing.
It's funny, man. I always say like it's like two different. You could tell person's personality by who they like. You know?
Yep. That's true.
He
does give off Jordan vibes.
That's what I'm saying. I knew you was gonna say Michael Jordan, man, because but I just feel like, man, LeBron, man, just in terms of his actual ability to play the game on so many levels at a high level for so long, and then you add on the burden of he was coming after Michael Jordan, you know, and so you know I was there when it was, you know, he was still in high school, and it was like
and he lived up
all
to
of
it.
this weight, and that's the thing. It was
that's
like
crazy
because he lived up to it, man. He was able to stay healthy. He does good work in the community.
Man,
that was the other piece of it. It's like, man,
what he does in Akron is crazy, man. Have y'all ever been to his spot, House 330?
I haven't seen it, but I just follow from like from
it's unbelievable.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, we used to do stuff in I Promise. We did some work there. Yeah.
Oh shoot.
So we I'm familiar with them. That's another little name drop. So.
Okay, I see.
So we did some STEM work at I Promise. So.
Okay, so this is a you got an obligation to say this.
Yeah, I gotta say it, man. LeBron, man. But no, I always loved how, you know, he was about the community.
Yes.
And then also how he put on his boys. 100. You know, so you know, like I said, coming from where I came from, that was the dream, man, to give back to the community and to put your people on. 100%. You know what I mean? And he did all of that. So.
And on top of that, in a social media era, right?
That's it.
To be free of controversy, you know, and to, like, relatively speaking, outside of like the decision, right? Or him going to Lakers, like, it's hard, right? Because people will always say things about you, right? And I think that's the other thing too, when like talking about community, that people are going to have opinions and everything, but it's the opinion of those that really matters is the people that we're serving and working with, right? And making sure that their needs are addressed and met, and that they feel empowered and more confident who they are. So that's why I really doubly admire him too. So
absolutely. So
I disagree. No.
It is. I think that's the forever conversation, man. Everywhere, you know. And I always see when people post it on on social media, I was like, man, they just want to start something because
Right,
you're
right,
gonna
right,
always
right.
have both
Always,
sides
right.
chiming in, you know. So,
But you know, it's crazy when people say you're the Jordan of something. You know what I'm saying? That's how you know.
I-
You know
no,
what I mean?
I
Like,
feel
That's
that. I
fair.
feel that.
That's fair.
I can't,
That's
I
fair.
can't
That's
deny
fair.
that, man. So, no, thanks for having you both on.
Absolutely.
For coming on and blessing us with your time. Before we part, you got any last words, each of you, that you want to kind of say to the community about what you do? If you have a call to action that you want to kind of get out there for you personally, or for your business or your nonprofit, let us know kind of what the takeaway is from Moses and Iddrisu.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for having us. Of course. I think this is so dope what you're doing, and you know, amongst moves, a coalition that we're building around STEM and STEAM, making sure that the standard of excellence that we want our community to have access to, that leads to opportunities, whether it's through workforce development, whether it's through development of skills, whether it's through higher education, whether it's through entrepreneurship, or just tapping into your spark. It's so important that we find ways to connect with one another, that we find ways to work and find resources to empower one another, so that we can invest in our own communities and our own self and produce the outcomes that we want to see. Because our young people, our adults, our elders, we all have something to contribute. And at the bare minimum, we add immense value when we move as one. And so when it comes to the Opportunity Zone, we have our website, the opportunityzone614.com, where you can find all the ways to connect, but also to see how we're trying to sustain ourselves, how you can invest, how you can be a partner, how you can develop pathways, how you can bring programming in. With our restaurant, Flavor 91 Bistro, of course, come through and, you know, patronize, but also, you know, circulate your dollar back into your community at the same time as well. And then, you know, always, I'd say, always look for ways that, you know, you can also pour back in and, you know, uplift one another, you know, at the same time. So, yeah.
No, I love that. Beautiful. Yeah, to echo same sentiments for Moses. Thank you for having us on. This has been amazing. And before I jump into all myself, I want to say I admire you, right? Like for the work you do. Like it's funny you brought up the OAN conference. I was familiar with Oasis, and I was like, oh man, I want to meet this guy. And like you were there, and I was like, oh man, he's here. Like, should I talk to him now? Like, and so I felt like a little nervous. And I was like,
tell
oh.
my wife now.
But, yeah.
Like, man, he was anticipating my arrival.
Yeah. And so I'm glad we met that day, because that's led to like a really excellent just friendship and partnership here, and like truly view you as both a friend and mentor.
Thank you.
So truly appreciate the work you're doing, and Boy Genius is just so wonderful, because I know what it means when I see those kids smiling when they're being read to, when they're engaging with like a positive male role model who can just say like, you can do this, you can do anything you want to do, you know, just believe. But yeah, for MSC, for Makerspace Central, we have lots of programming coming up. We have our Superstars of STEAM program that is great for K through 12 engineers and tinkerers and scientists. We call all the students who work with engineers and scientists because they are engineers and scientists now.
Absolutely.
They just are at a different level. They, you know, maybe they can't do a whole crazy equation or formula, but guess what? They can do something.
That's
and
right.
They are an
Scientist
engineer.
one.
Exactly. Scientist one. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And their pay rate is Snickers bar. You know.
Right.
And so we just announced that series. So we actually are announcing the dates here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be announcing our speakers, the projects, and the different locations that we'll be at. So we'll have 10 for this year. So really excited about that. And then we also have the Moves program that we're putting on together, right? So really excited about that. So stay tuned to our website, social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, all that kind of information, just to find out when that is. But we have our showcase day currently set for August 15th, finalizing some details around that, what that's going to be. This is going to be an event for the community, built by the community, making sure that folks get these aha moments, these motivational opportunities to make them think that, oh, I can be this engineer, I can be the scientist, I can be something that's not that, but uses all those same critical thinking skills and abilities. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Our website, makerspacecentral.org. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram. I think soon to be TikTok. We'll see. Trying to figure out how to crack that code. So maybe lean on you guys for that.
Sure.
But yeah, you can volunteer with us, donate in-kind services, equipment, funds, anything to help us just reach youth in the communities all across Columbus and Central Ohio. But yeah, that's what we are, what we do, and I'm so glad to be doing this work with you guys, and really honored to be a part of this.
Likewise. Salute to both of you. So, and the work you do. So that's it. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Genius Level. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Genius Level podcast with Moses Hayelom.
There you go.
And Iddrisu Seidu. So, young brothers, the young community-minded Avengers. So I'll see you in the next episode. Make sure you follow us at Genius Level Org on Instagram.
Peace.
Thank you.